a bit about the difference of the top speed and the elapsed times and why the ground effect cars are quicker here, and the common misunderstanding people have with the top speed at the end of the longest straight. Okay?
That's a good idea. Hello, Ben. Thank you very much. So, like Ben just said, this is the broadcast of the third race of the season, the South African Grand Prix in the Kyalami circuit, a circuit that it's loved by many people. It's an easy circuit to remember, but a hard circuit to master, isn't it? Alberto here joins me again, our physics master here in historic sim racing, and my helper here whenever I have these kind of technical questions. So what do you think of this track, Alberto?
Kyalami is a very peculiar track, and I mean, in real life, it has certain traits that we cannot, unfortunately, reproduce here in the virtual environment. And one of them is being so high above the sea level. This is a track where the engines suffer and lose a lot of power because, as everybody knows, the air is much thinner up there. And that means that there is less oxygen, and therefore the engines can develop as much power. This, in real life, historically, has always affected a lot more the aspirated engines than the turbocharged ones. And that was the reason that's the reason why the Renault that had the turbo performed here much better and had their first good results historically at this kind of track. Other than that, being high, it's also a peculiar track in the way it is configured, because it's a track that has a very, very fast section, very power hungry. But then again, the rear of the track has a lot of twisty intersections, tight corners that will benefit the cars that have a lot more grip. So you have to reach a compromise in setup.
So that it seems, of course, indeed, not everything can be, recreated in a virtual environment, at least in R Factor 1. But we hope that we can recreate as much as possible today. I will have to warn our viewers that because of the last problems we had with the people disconnecting at the start, that we will give a chance this time to these people to reconnect. So we might go repeat the procedure from going to the race if someone disconnects. But if that happens, we will go directly to the race. So that nobody is confused at home. We might have to restart the server, but it will be just so to make sure that everybody can rejoin and start the race tonight. Now, we already had our qualifying session this time because we had to, we were making sure everything was working fine, but we will run it down for you when the people are lining up on the grid. So now our drivers are running around in the warm-up, trying to get themselves used to, having the tanks full and the hard tires. And I guess I will take a moment to maybe call Jonathan Asserklint here, and maybe we can have a few words with him, what we can expect from today's race.
User left your channel. User joined your channel. User left your channel.
So while we wait for Jonathan to come...
User joined your channel.
Yes, Alberto went to get some snacks for us, and he's back now.
User joined your channel.
And here it is, Jonathan. Jonathan, good evening. How are you today?
Good evening, and yeah, I'm pretty good. Looking forward to the race for once, I think.
Really? Do you think your results here today will be better?
Probably not, but you never know.
Did you do anything different to the car? Does this track suit your car or your driving style better?
I'd say that the car probably, the track sort of suits my driving style quite well, but the car itself isn't that happy with the circuit as it is. But we'll work around it, hopefully.
Will you use the same tactic you used in Brazil of trying to conserve your tires and make them last a bit longer than the other drivers?
That is sort of my only way of getting forward, I think, because as you noted on the broadcast last time, when I'm behind another car, I lose a lot of downforce, so I can't really battle with anyone. I sort of need them to have less grip than me in the tires.
Well, let's hope that the race doesn't finish like the last one.
And I've learned from that mistake, so hopefully it won't happen again, indeed.
Well, we hope not. I guess this track being maybe a bit more simple and a bit more wide, we can expect less accidents. What do you think?
I think that turn 1 and turn 2 and the hairpin on the first lap could spell a little bit of problems, but other than that, it should be wide enough and space enough for everyone to get through safely enough.
Yes, we believe so too. Do you have any problems with the long straightaway? You think you have the power to keep up with the other people?
From what I've seen in testing and so on, I am in the ballpark. I'm a little bit slow without the draft, but as soon as I have some kind of draft on the straights, I'm doing okay.
Well, it's good to know. It means that you can try to overtake at least some people on the straight for once.
Yeah, that'll be a big change from the last 2 races.
Well, thank you for coming here, Jonathan. Good luck for the race. We hope you do well this time.
Thank you, and the same to you in the broadcast booth.
Thank you very much, Jason.
Good luck.
Well, Alberto, we haven't talked yet, but we have some people that came back for this race.
User left your channel.
Fortunately, Richard Coxon is back, as well as Grégoire Guassin. They were 2 of the big in main contenders on the first race. Do you expect them to do very well this time again?
They should do, because they will also be willing to make a good show here after not being able to race the other time. It's also people that are actually challenging for the championship, so they really need the points. They need to make a good finish here, and it will be interesting to see how they respond to pressure, because on one hand they have to score points, and on the other hand they need to be conservative, but at the same time push and get those points as much as possible.
Indeed. So I guess Ben can show us a lap around the circuit done by Patrick de Pellier. Isn't that so? So thank you. Let's watch the lap of the real Kyalami circuit back in 1978.
User disconnected from your channel.
And we are back to our warm-up, which is almost finishing. We already had our expert Alberto opinion about this track. we were talking about some drivers that came back, and we also have some new cars here today. I believe Brabham came back with the new model, and also Ferrari, isn't it so, Alberto?
Yes, they are right now testing their new cars, and this evolution should actually give them a lot more of grip, because the engine was already quite developed. It was a good engine. It has a lot of power, but there is always a problem when you can't exit the turns fast enough, because in that case, you will be wasting all those horsepower in just getting up to speed, to the same speed that other cars had reached before, because they came out of the turn quicker. And that's what makes it quite interesting when you look at those lapse times and the speeds they are reaching at the end of the straight. There's something about, we can talk about it later in the race when we see the differences between cars if you want.
Well, that will be very interesting, especially for our viewers, Alberto. And now that we are just moments away from the lining up on the grid, as we can see.
This is really a very tense moment for everyone. Everybody is collecting his thoughts. Everybody is planning what he will be doing at the moment the green light comes out. And well, I, to a certain extent, wouldn't like to be in the seat that many of them are right now.
Yes, any seat in this quite big 29 car grid, Alberto. We have again a full grid here. Everybody picked both the regulars and the one-off cars that were part of this race. We had back then in Formula One, there were some drivers that would only contest one race or another race. This was long before the Concord Pact and the fixed grid slots for the whole season. But 29 people, it's quite a big grid for a Formula One race, don't you think?
Yeah, fortunately, I think that this is a track that will take them very well. There's enough room, the straights are long, and as soon as they spread out a bit after the first corners, everything will be okay.
So everybody's lined up. I guess it's a good moment to run down our grid order. Don't you think?
Yeah, maybe, but careful, because they will have a very quick start today here. Just to avoid disconnections, they won't be going through the usual starting procedure. After a warm-up lap, it will be race.
Exactly. So our pole position man, once again, Gerard Rion in the Lotus. The second place, and alongside him, Didier Conjud with the Lotus. So the team Lotus in a big advantage here. They had the whole first line of the grid. Third, Mick Chapman in the Arrows. He changed his old car for the Arrows for this race, and immediately there was an improvement. His old car was the Wolf, but I guess the Arrows is a better car. Fourth, Richard Coxon. He returns for this race with already a good performance. Fifth, Philippe Martinelli in the other Arrows. Sixth, Peter Hlavak with the Williams. Seventh, Ray Ridal with the Cooper Stuker. Eighth is Grégoire Guassin with the Shadow. 9, Jean-Marie Placé with the McLaren. 10th, Jason Fitch in the Lotus 78, a private one. 11, Mike Becknell with that new Ferrari. 12th, Jacob Fredrickson in the ATS. 13th, Vincent Beretta in the other Shadow. Then at 14th, we have Dana Schurer with the Ligier. 15th, David Junt in the Surtees. 16th, David Jack in the other Tyrrell. 17th, Jason with the new Brabham BT46. 18, Jonathan Nasserklint in the McLaren M23. 19 is Yves Placé in the Ensign. 20th, Jan Kowalski in the ATS. 21 is Mark Florken in the Ferrari. 22 is Raoul Jareb in the other Brabham. 23rd is Pascal Lepive in the McLaren M26. 24th, Michael Janak in the Ascot. 25th, Emil Gersak in the Merzario. 26th, Steve Parker in the Surtees. 27th, Francois Remen with the Renault. 28th, Pascal Mikula with the Wolf. 29th, Glenn Corliss with the Theodore. And 30th and last, James Knowles in the Martini Mark 23. The drivers are now lining up to the grid. tense moments now as the drivers await the start.
And let's hope that everything goes well now.
Yes, let's hope we don't have any disconnects this time. Everybody's lined up. At least that's a good sign.
We're going green any moment.
Any moment now. 3 red lights, 4 red lights. And away they go. It's a good start from Gerard Guillaume. Even better start from Richard. He goes, he takes the lead.
Yeah, amazing. With wheel spin almost on the straight.
Indeed, he took the lead even before they got to the braking zone. So Richard is first.
Coming
Gerard
now to the
lines up
first
in
corner.
second.
Everybody went through safely, apparently, in the head of the race.
Indeed, they're going to the second corner already. Richard still leads. Gerard is going on his pursuit.
And I believe there is an engine smoking. Yes, there is a car that is smoking.
So we might have already someone with a problem, but incredibly, there are no crashes. So everybody's racing. 29 people down this Kyalami circuit. And already Gerard under pressure. Yes, he's under pressure from Petr Lavak already. So Gerard Guillaume has to look to his mirrors now. Of course, he was the winner of our last race in Brazil. Let's see what he can do down the straight. I don't know about the top speed of the Lotus. I know the Williams is a fast car, so he might have to look at his mirrors down this straight.
They seem to be quite even. Nobody's catching up anybody, which is quite strange because there must be a lot of draft here.
If anything, Gerard, was catching Richard, and now, Petr Lavak was trying on the outside, but I don't think it will work there. His Lotus is going sideways. I guess he doesn't want to give any room or any chance to Petr. He's pushing everything he can. Down these fast corners, I guess the Lotus has the upper hand because he can just get a little room to breathe. And he's going on pursuit of Richard once again. Ooh, the car went a bit sideways there. And Petr is all over him again. I guess we can expect an exciting race. Kyalami is always an exciting circuit. And we have the best of the best here today.
And we can already see how Peter is suffering when he is behind Gerard Guillaume. That car, those wings from the Williams are not getting enough air. So, in these fast corners, you can see how he is trying to put his nose where the other car in front is not. So then he can get a bit of cleaner.
Well,
and he certainly doesn't seem to be able to get in front in the long straight. The Williams at most stays glued to the rear of the Lotus, but doesn't seem to be able to pull a move out.
Yes, he doesn't. He's trying everything he can for sure. We already have our first retirement of the race. Dana Schurer with an accident. We didn't have the chance to see that, but she's out of the race.
And Mike Bagnell also seems to have suffered some kind of problem. Because
yes,
his
he's
car
one
is
lap
right
down.
Now station, sideline. Yes.
He's one lap down. I suppose maybe they collided. They were close to each other on the grid, so that's probably what happened. It's a shame. We were curious to see what Mike could do with the new Ferrari here today. I guess we won't see that now. And this, this was such an exciting beginning of the race that we only have maybe time now to breathe, and I can give you the top 10. Richard Coxon obviously leads from the start, although he's now under pressure from Gerard Guillaume. And Gerard Guillaume is in the lead now. He just passed Richard Coxon down the straight, and he's the leader now. Oh, but Richard tries to... He tried to respond immediately, but I guess it wouldn't work there. So Gerard is still in the lead. So Gerard Guillaume leads, Richard Coxon is second, Petr Lavak third, Jean-Marie Placet fourth, Greg Guasson is fifth, Jacob Frederiksen is sixth, Ray Ridal is seventh, Vincent Beretta eighth, Mick Chapman ninth, and Jason Fitch rounds up the top 10. Well, I guess we have our usual suspects here. This is proving to be a freeway battle for the lead. And now Richard Coxon is under pressure from Petr Lavak on that second place, Alberto.
Yeah, so it seems. I think everybody has now his tires warmed enough and everybody's getting into his rhythm. And at this point, probably Peter is quicker than Richard. I'm waiting to see what happens because you all know what happened in the first race of the season. As soon as Peter was able to pass the cars in front and got into his own rhythm, he just disappeared. And he's certainly having a good run on Richard here. He got him.
Yes, he got that second place, under braking. Oh, no, I guess we will talk too soon, Alberto. Richard responded, and he's still fighting for that second place, although from the outside, I don't know. Oh, and he got it. He kept the second place. That was an amazing move from Richard.
Well, I can tell you something. He knows that he has another man side by side that is good at the steering wheel, because otherwise that is not a move that you would put with anyone else. You must trust the car that is near you, the guy that is driving near you, or you wouldn't be able to enter a corner like that with a guy side by side.
Indeed, a great moment of driving from both these drivers, and a great moment of entertaining for us. Behind those two, we have another two usual suspects, Jean-Marie Poisset with the McLaren and Greg Guassin with the Shadow. I guess Greg doesn't want the leaders to go away, so he's also pushing to try to keep up.
Yeah, as usual, what you can expect from Greg is to be always there at the top 5. And looking at his car right now, he hasn't even lost sight from the leader right now. I mean, Gerard has pulled a gap, that's obvious, same as Peter and Richard, but they are not out of sight. And, well, we all know how Greg can drive with his tires completely worn. So if he is able to keep in touch for the whole race, he will certainly be a factor towards the end.
Indeed he will. I have the unfortunate news that Mike Becknell has officially retired from this race, so that's a shame.
That's a shame. Probably beyond repair was his car.
I suppose so. He was a long time stopped, and then he just retired. Gerard Rion, he seems to be in the same position he was in the last race. Now he's leading with about 1.5 seconds in front of second place man, which is still Richard Coxon. Those who just went backwards from the start were the Arrows boys. Mick Chapman is now 8th.
While and Peter is having a run now, again on Richard. He's pulling it.
Well, let's see if he can do it this time.
At the moment he came out of the draft, he lost the momentum, and Richard was able to squeeze in front at the kink again.
Yes, he just doesn't seem to have enough power out of the draft to just keep the momentum and pass Richard. Well, he did last time, but this time he just couldn't pull it off. But Richard is really under pressure from Petr now. I guess Richard also must have what you said earlier in mind, that if he lets Petr go away, he might not see him until the end of this race. Oh, and now Richard made a mistake. He went a bit wide, and it's Petr's opportunity. They are side by side once again, but I guess this time Richard has to let Petr go. So Petr is now 2nd. Richard was demoted to 3rd. Let's see if Richard can attack down the straight, at least with more success than Petr was able to.
And we will also be able to see what Williams can do in cleaner, because so far he has been behind Richard. And, well, we have seen how much he understeered and the problems he had in keeping up beyond the faster turns. And that
Petr's protecting the inside line.
Really seems to be powerful.
Cyril goes boom around the outside of Petr Lavak. That was an amazing move. And Richard is now back to 2nd. Indeed, he seemed to have the power and the legs to go around that Williams quite literally.
Yeah, we are seeing here two cars that are well matched over a whole lap in terms of lap time. But the truth is that one of them is clearly better in the corners, so Williams is gripping much more. And well, the Tyrrell instead has a very powerful engine, because what Richard has been able to do was something that Peter couldn't even dream of in the previous laps.
Yes, they seem to be two very different character cars here, fighting with each other. Of course, two excellent drivers too, which can extract the most out of these two cars. And it's doing great for us. It's a great show that the boys are putting on the track today. Of course, who is taking quite a big advantage from all of this is Gerard Rion. He's already 2.5 seconds in the lead. He has clean air, the track all over to him, so he can pretty much put the rhythm he wants, just like the last race. Although I wonder if Richard and Petr will stop fighting and just realize that and instead opt to chase him down. That might be a possibility. Meanwhile, behind this excellent battle, Greg Guassin already overtook Jean-Marie Placet, so Greg is now in 4th and Jean-Marie was demoted to 5th. Both of them are 5 seconds behind the leader, and behind them, already 10 seconds drift, is Jacob Fredriksson, doing yet again another great job with the ATS, and yet again having his fight with Ray Riddell in the Cooper Sucker.
Yeah, and these are two cars that seem to be quite evenly matched, because this has happened not only at one track, but we've seen it at several. So the characteristics of both cars must be pretty equal, because otherwise, when you have differences like we are seeing with the Williams and the Tyrrell, well, sorry, at this track they might be even, but at others they certainly are spread out.
Indeed, and Petr just overtook Richard Coxon once again down the front straight. This time he managed to pull alongside, and there's nothing Richard could do. So Petr now in 2nd, but Richard is, well, he's again glued to his back. He wants to overtake him once again. So I guess these two decided to keep fighting.
It's a bit of a difficult situation for both of them, because the cars being so different, I believe that both of them feel that they are really being held up by the other car, at least a half of the track, because of the peculiarities that we have commented of this Kyalami circuit. Big drama.
The big disaster here. Petr just lost it in front of Richard, and there was nothing Richard could do besides slamming the Williams. So now he lost his wing, and I guess it's time for a link to repair for him, which is very
thanks
unfortunate.
God he's close to the pit entrance. But
yeah,
Petr doesn't seem to stop, so his car must not have received a lot of damage.
Well, at least he has his wings still attached.
Richard, of course, immediately went into the pits.
Yes, there was nothing he could do. It was very unfortunate for him. He came out worse of a mistake that was not of his own. So now, if anything, he will have a very long race from the back to try to salvage some points from this. It was very
and this promotes Greg Guassin to 2nd, who is also making the best of it, because he is now only 6 seconds behind Gerard Rion.
Yes, our battle for 2nd is now between Jean-Marie Placet and Greg Guassin. They are both promoted. Jacob Fredriksson is now 5th, Mick Chapman is 6th, Ray Riddell is 7th, David Junt is 8th, Jason Fitch is 9th, and Vincent Beretta rounds up the top 10.
And I'm looking forward to seeing what Greg will do in this situation, because I can tell you from what I know him that he is a guy that there are 2 situations in which he absolutely brings the best of him. One of them is when he is a man on a mission. That means when he's following someone for a very important position, in this case for the lead, and the other one he's fighting hand-to-hand with someone who is at his level. In those both situations, you can expect the best from Greg. If he's leading, he might get bored and not be lapping as fast or whatever. But in these situations, he's a true killer.
Yes, Petr Lavak is of course still lapping in 4th. He's now 10 seconds from the leader. But I guess if he indeed doesn't have much damage on these Williams, he will probably catch up with our fight for 2nd place now.
And indeed seems that Greg Guassin has cut 0.7 of a second from the lead of Gerard Rion.
Yes,
no,
well,
they're back now to 6. Okay.
he cannot afford to lift off. I mean, he has Jean-Marie Placet right behind him, still trying to get that second place away from him.
And it's my intuition maybe only, but I would say that Jean-Marie Placet would not be that fast unless he was following Greg in this situation, in this peculiar situation.
Well, I guess he can keep following him, but although he seems tired of it, he's just pulled alongside now. And he's second.
The McLaren has obviously more brand in the engine.
Ooh, big fight to run. And, oh gosh, Greg wanted, and he managed to get the place back around the outside. Now, that's a move we have seen from Greg Wasson before. You know, he can just take back his place, braking very late around the outside, and he managed to pull that off. So Jean-Marie is back again in third.
And they are coming already to a lapped car.
Indeed. They are lapping James Knowles. Now, he never got very comfortable in that Martini. But at least he's doing a good job getting away from the faster guys here today. I'm sure that after the end of this race, he will be more comfortable with these cars. It's a long race. He has a long time to get used to it. Although the Martini is not really a fast car to begin with, so he has a lot of work there. I guess Jean-Marie will try again. Yes, he will.
He got by this time. Let's see how long.
Indeed, he has the engine to do it. And now Greg will try on the inside, and he got it once again. The rear stepped up a bit, but he made it stick, and he's back in second. Well, Jean-Marie must be getting a bit frustrated there. I mean, he does have the legs in the engine to pass Greg Wasson, but he doesn't seem to be able to brake just late enough to keep him behind him.
Yes, but this situation has brought both of them to 7 seconds behind Gerard Rion, while Greg was already starting to eat that difference before. So Jean-Marie should actually be a bit more careful with that and try to follow simply Greg, because, like I said, if he was following Greg, benefiting from the slipstream, he probably would be able to keep the difference to Gerard Rion a bit more under control.
Well, indeed, Gerard Rion, leader in the Lotus, seems to be running away once again with the race. Let's see for how long. If they still keep fighting, they won't be able to catch him. Meanwhile, a driver who is on the move is Mick Chapman in the Arrows. He's now fifth. And Mick Chapman, he's going in pursuit of Petr Hlavak, who after that accident, he doesn't seem to be able to make a big impression on the leaders.
And we should also mention the other driver of the second Arrows, because it's no other than Philippe Martinelli, who put such a beautiful show one race ago. We were absolutely delighted to see how he drove. And right now he seems to be having a bit more difficulties. He's now 10th and struggling a bit in his fight with Vincent Beretta and Jason Fitch.
It's a big fight there, a three-way fight for 9th place between Vincent Beretta, Philippe Martinelli and Jason Fitch. And of course, Philippe might have the legs with that Arrows, but it's not easy to overtake other people. This is Formula One after all. I guess, it's only fitting that Philippe Martinelli and Mick Chapman are now teammates this year. I remember them fighting almost every race of our French touring car season. It's in a way funny that they are both teammates at this moment in the championship. I guess Philippe is trying to pass Vince once again, and he made it stick. So Philippe Martinelli is now 9th, and let's see for how long.
But what a difference a race makes, because, well, he was absolutely, on top the other race, driving very steadily, very fast. Right now he's, top 10, but no longer fighting for the podium. Even if the arrows actually seems to be capable of making it, because his teammate is top 5 now. And I know that Felipe is not slower than Mike, certainly.
Well, you know how it is. If a driver gets stuck behind slower driver, especially in the beginning of a race, a driver can lose a lot of time. I see that Felipe Martinelli is now breaking away from Vincent and is actually on pursuit of David Junt. So he does seem to have the speed to make an impression and maybe to get more in front as this race goes by. Let's see what he can do.
Well, the other two that are certainly still trading paint are Greg Wassin and Jean-Marie Placet. They have certainly broken all hostilities. They are not caring about what Gerard Brion is doing in front, and they are having a ball because they are continuously passing each other.
Yes, Greg Wassin and Jean-Marie Placet, they just can't seem to hold to their respective places, whatever they would be, and they keep fighting and they keep trading places. It's been an exciting race for us and for them. And in the background, we can see Petr Hlavak slowly but surely catching those two up. And soon it will be a freeway battle for second. And
So,
of course,
then Peter doesn't seem to have gotten any special damage in this case.
yes, I don't think so too. Poor Richard was the one who got the main damage from that. And now he's way back in the order. Greg Wassin
Well, I've been looking at his lap times from Richard Coxon, and he's
Yes.
been doing almost the same as what he was doing when he was at the front. So probably whatever damage he got has been mostly repaired.
Well, his race will certainly be interesting. He will have a lot of overtaking to do, especially with the big grid we have today. And I must stress that only two drivers are out of the race at this point, Mike Becknell and Dana Schurer, so everybody else is still racing.
And fighting. Because in the case of Jean-Marie Placet and Greg Wassin, you gotta wonder how long will they be able to keep the stress? Because that's 78 laps that need to be done. They are only at lap 17, and they are still knife in teeth.
Yes, indeed, no truce there. Whatever little bit that Greg can maybe pull away in the rest of the circuit, Jean-Marie surely makes up for it in sheer power from that McLaren, and he gets right onto the back of Greg once again. Of course, now Petr Hlavak is basically almost into the back of Jean-Marie Placet too.
Yeah, the fact that Greg is having to do that defensive driving, especially in that fast section, will not help his lap times anything.
Well, believe it or not, Alberto, Jacob Frederiksen and Ray Ridal, they just traded places once again. They are again running very close to each other and fighting all the way through this race. I guess it will be another very private fight between the two all through this race. And ooh, almost something there. So let's go back to Jean-Marie Placet, because now he lost a bit of ground to Greg Wassin with a small mistake, and he seems to be under attack from Petr Hlavak.
Which hopefully will give Greg a bit of a time to be able to pull away, make a bit difference, and see if he can start the campaign to catch him, to catch Gerard.
Oh, he just couldn't do it there. Petr was alongside, but as you said before, he just didn't seem to have the speed once he got out of that draft to pass Jean-Marie Placet, so he had to just stay behind and keep in his fourth place.
He's probably a bit impatient because he knows, well, how much he has lost of a chance by his early spin.
Yes, indeed, Gerard is quite a bit in front, but Jean-Marie Placet doesn't seem to be willing to give third place easily.
Well, when you're fighting for the last step in the podium, people say that this and victory are the two positions you really fight harder.
Yes, I suppose so. Jean-Marie, of course, he has been having a good championship. He's been fairly competitive in the McLaren, although this is the best race we've seen from him so far.
Yeah, probably because the track somehow suits him better.
Petr's going at it again, and he's alongside once again. And they're coming through a back marker. He has to take defensive action, but he's through. He's through from third place. Petr Lavak is now back in third after successfully overtaking Jean-Marie Placet on the front straight.
And that was tight, squeezing there in the inside.
Yes, not
Michael
without...
Janak will be having a bit of something to remember after this.
Yeah, it seems so. Of course, he did what he was supposed to do. He was really out of the way there. It wasn't his fault that these people are fighting with everything they have. And Jean-Marie Placet doesn't seem to be, any slower now that he's back to fourth. He's glued to that Williams still. Both cars with their distinctive front radiators on their nose. Petr Lavak seems to be very fast getting out of that last corner. It served him well in the past, and it's serving him well here. He got away from Jean-Marie just enough to be safe from the slipstream.
And I think this is as good occasion as any other to explain a bit that thing. And most people, when you talk about top speed, about this car is much quicker in the faster sections or not, most people tend to think exclusively on the top speed at the end of a straight. But that top speed is actually not something that is the most important thing, the most important trait in the car. Top speed, of course, is something that comes with power, but the most important thing when you are racing is elapsed times. And that means the difference between a sector and the other, the difference of time between exiting the turn and coming to the end of the straight. And this is a situation where something very peculiar happens. Watching now how they are coming to the lapped cars.
Yes, they're lapping Raul Gereb and Jonathan
Nasser-Klint. And look at this corner and you will see what I mean. When a car that has more grip, like the ground effect cars, comes out of this last corner quicker, say 120 kilometers per hour, he might arrive at the end of the straight with not as big top speed as a more powerful car. But in the end, he will be there faster, and that's what counts.
Ooh, this is a big battle here, Alberto. Petr just overtook Greg Guassin down the straight, but Greg Guassin once again tried to fight back under brakes in the first corner. He didn't quite do it. He was a bit wide, but he's all over Petr, and I guess knowing Greg, he won't stay put there. And Jean-Marie is looking at all this.
He's already on the tail. And they are entering now the twisted section. This is the place where Greg can do something.
That Williams very squirrelish on the back end. I guess Petr is having trouble putting the power down. They are coming to some more back markers.
If they arrive to the fast section and Greg isn't close enough, he will really have a bit of a problem there.
Yes, it does seem that Patrick just got away with it.
Well, in any case, he better not make the slightest error, because otherwise Greg will be on his tail, as you can see right now.
He already is. He braked very late for that corner once again, and he's right behind Petr. Jean-Marie desperate to get Glenn Corliss there out of the way, and he managed just to keep the distance to these two.
And also a good job by Glenn Corliss getting out of the way.
Indeed. I was sorry to interrupt you there, Alberto, but the action is just too much to miss. Now they are all three of them nose to tail. Let's see if Patrick can once again get away in the last corner. Greg is really trying it tight there, but he made a mistake. He made a mistake.
What happened? Oh, Greg Wasson is now 5th.
What? I guess
He has vanished off the track.
Do you think he disconnected?
I don't know what to say. Something weird happened.
Oh,
Maybe
it's
he
a
went out
big
of the
shame.
track, out of the limits, and he got, well, disconnected. Not disconnected, he just did not finish. Oh, that was a sad end to such a big drive.
That's a great shame. He suddenly just disappeared. He was right in the tail of Petr, and suddenly he was there no more. And now Petr is pretty much alone in second place. Jean-Marie just made a small mistake and you lost a bit of ground. So...
yeah, Ben is telling us that indeed Greg disconnected. What a sad thing to happen.
Oh, that's a big shame indeed. Well, that's always a risk here in our virtual racing. It's a shame that it had to happen right at this moment with such a nice battle on the track.
Well, we are fortunately not risking physically our lives when we race here virtually, but we have these other risks.
Yes, a frustrating end for Greg's race there. So the top 10 now are Gerard Rion, Petr Lavak is in second, trying to catch up Gerard. Third is Jean-Marie Passet. Mick Chapman was promoted to fourth. Ray Ridal is fifth and Jacob Fredriksson is sixth. Philippe Martinelli is seventh. David Jumt has been slowly gaining up places and is now eighth. Vincent Perret is ninth, and Pascal Lepine in the other McLaren rounds up the top 10.
And now something interesting about our leader, Gerard Rion. Whatever he has been doing, he hasn't been able to capitalize that much from the fights behind him, because Petr Lavak is right now less than 6 seconds away from him. And when you think that before Peter joined the fight with Greg and with Jean-Marie, they were almost 9 seconds behind, well, something must have happened to Gerard. Either he's conserving tires heavily, or he just has been caught napping.
I suppose he might have been conservative with lapping back markers. Maybe he was too conservative, but indeed he didn't seem to gain much time with all this fighting behind him. So let's just see if Petr can actually gain some time to him. He seems to be doing that. The distance is now 5.8 seconds. He left Jean-Marie Passet quite behind. Jean-Marie Passet, who is now falling into the clutches of Mick Chapman.
Yes, that's another man on a mission. Mick Chapman is coming quite fast, catching up with Jean-Marie Passet. And let's see what happens when he picks him. He rests there.
Indeed, and funny enough, they're both lapping a car that we haven't mentioned today, or at least not much. But we mentioned all the other times, but today he actually made the race. Francois, I know, he's not doing very well, but he's, and it's the sole Renault entry here today.
And that's what we were talking about at the start of the race, is this had been true to the Kyalami nature. Well, this is a track where the Renault would have had a clear power advantage. But let's not keep our sights out of Mick Chapman and Jean-Marie Passet, because indeed Mick is already on his tail.
Yes, it seems we will once again have a fight for that last podium place. Mick Chapman seems to be determined to get that third place from Jean-Marie Passet. He's now all over the back of him. Poor Jean-Marie Passet, he has had to fight people coming from the back of him all over the race so far. I guess Mick, with that arrows, he seems to have a grip advantage. The arrows is very good there aerodynamically, from what I know.
But look at this last corner. This is what I was talking about before we centered on the fight before. You can see clearly how Mick Chapman can come out of this turn much quicker than the car in front. The McLaren is not a ground effects car, but the Arrows is same as the Lotus. And in this case, what happens is that if you come out of the corner with already a speed advantage, then you have everything to gain there at the end of the straight.
Oh, and Mick Chapman, he was able to brake just late enough to get alongside Jean-Marie Passet. Jean-Marie Passet all over the place trying to defend his third place, but just couldn't make it. And now Mick is up to third. An incredible, very clean, very good move from Mick. Of course, he's always been a very clean driver.
Yeah, well, Jean-Marie also did a good job. He cooperated there because he really did not shut the door violently.
Yes, that could be a problem. Mick just he break and enter that last space that he had. Ooh, and now he made a mistake. He made a mistake.
Yes, it seems that he got distracted by the car that had stopped there.
Indeed, and he's now back to fourth once again, so he has to do it all over again. Well, he has
looking back at it, it's the Hesketh on Michel Janac. And it seems to be smoking on the back, maybe some kind of engine damage or whatever. He's on the move again.
Yes, well, while we've been distracted with all this action, so a good distraction, we had quite a bit more retirements from this race. James Knoll retired with suspension damage in the Martini. Jason White retired with an accident. Steve Parker and Greg Lassin, well, they are both retired too. Greg from that unfortunate disconnect. And Raul Jareb, he seemed to have crashed somewhere and he's also retired. So both Ravens are out of the race.
That's really sad.
Indeed it is. And we were very curious to see what the new model could do. So I guess also Mike Becknell retired with that Ferrari. So our hopes of seeing what these new models could do today were shattered, unfortunately.
I'm looking at the reactions at the forum, and well, Dana Schurer admitted that she had a bit of tried too hard too early, and she seems to have spun on turn 2 and hit the barrier. Well, Mike Becknell is not really happy because at first he thought he had some kind of random failure because suddenly the rear suspension stopped working. And then watching the replay, he seems to have realized that he slid over the edge of the track and bottomed out, at which point it seems to have destroyed whatever one of the joints.
Well, I guess, although these cars in our virtual form might be a bit more resistant than in the real life situations, well, I guess if you did that in real life, you probably would end up with damage too. So, well, it was unfortunate anyways. I guess he must have bumped a place that was a bit harder on the track, and that was it.
Meanwhile, Mick Chapman has caught Jean-Marie again. He is again well, putting a lot of pressure on him.
Indeed, it seems so. And of course, we have quite a bit of fighting along this track still. I do wonder if once he passes Jean-Marie Passet, if he can manage to get away from him also, like Peter did.
Well, Peter right now is a steady 5 seconds behind our leader, Gerard Rion. And at some point he seemed to be catching him up easily, but now the differences are being kept. And probably Gerard has realized that he was being pursued and cocked and has, well, started upping his freedom.
Well, that surely brings us back to what he did in Brazil. He seemed there to have done the same throughout the whole race, right until the end, when his tires seemed to start to let go. We will have to see if the same happens today.
Well, I reckon myself that this is one of the most difficult things to do as a race driver, and that is having different rhythms, because somehow going all flat or going slowly, carefully, is mentally speaking to a certain extent the easiest thing to do. But at the moment you have to change your rhythm. That is something that can easily make you go into mistakes.
Well, indeed, although to be fair, he did run a very almost mistake-free race in Brazil, so we saw that he can do it. Let's see if he can keep up the distance here today again.
Well, Peter is now under 5 seconds behind him.
Yes, and Mick Chapman is once again trying everything to go after Jean-Marie Placet. These two have been stepping all over the racetrack and outside of it to try to keep the distance to each other. And we have another retirement. Vincent Beretta, he's out of the race. We don't know for sure what happens, but he's out.
Richard Coxon, meanwhile, has been able to climb to 14th and is quickly catching up with Jason Fitch. Oh no, Richard.
I guess that's the... Oh. Yes, that's the end of his race.
Oh, he hit the barrier.
Yes,
well, he probably had lost his concentration and was no longer happy at all this situation.
Yes, he made a mistake on the brakes behind Jason Fitch. The car just slid away from him, and the barrier was his next stop, unfortunately. He was doing a fine race.
Yeah, but these things happen. What starts bad, what starts wrong, usually also ends the same way.
Meanwhile, Jean-Marie Placet is still under pressure from Mick Chapman. So our top 10 is still Gerard Brion in first, Petr Lavac is second, Jean-Marie Placet still holding his third place from Mick Chapman, Ray Riddell is fifth, Philippe Martinelli sixth, Jacob Fredriksson is seventh, David Junt is eighth in the Surtees, Yves Placet climbed all the way to ninth in the Ensign, and Didier Conjure in the other Lotus is 10th.
So we see Philippe Martinelli in 6th place, which is something much more according to his driving level, as we know him. And he's actually catching up with Ray Riddell quite fast.
Yes, he's been out of trouble while he was overtaking the people that were in front of him, and now he has his eyes set on Ray Riddell, just like you said. Well, Mick Chapman is again all over Jean-Marie Placet. I wonder if he will manage to pass him. Jean-Marie Placet, McLaren is all over the place, and Mick Chapman is trying everywhere. Oh, Jean-Marie just made a mistake. He just tried to put too much power through those rear tires. I wonder if he's destroying his tires, trying to defend from everybody today, and Mick Chapman is through for first place.
Well, Mick Chapman is certainly doing a brilliant race today. He's making the most of the arrows. And you gotta remember that he got into this car somehow as a mere coincidence, because it became backhand by Dylan Canton, and he got the chance to get to drive it. And well, I think it's only 2 days that he has this car. He's been able to train with it.
Well, he does seem to suit him much more than is Wolf, and he's doing a fine job with it. Meanwhile, Jean-Marie Placet doesn't seem to have lost quite much ground there. He seems to try to at least been trying to keep up with Mick and still be able to fight for that last podium position. Let's see if Mick Chapman can get away from him and go in pursuit of Petr, or if we will have again a fight between these two.
Well, another fight that is about to happen is between Philippe Martinelli and Ray Riddell, because Philippe is already on Ray Riddell's tail.
So let's move to there. We have Ray Riddell in his yellow Cooper Sucker as always. He's been a regular top 10, even top 5 guy in our 3 races so far. He's been getting the most out of that big white Cooper Sucker. But indeed, Philippe Martinelli is really on his tail now. And let's see if he can make something down the front straight. I guess he will try for sure. He's really, really close now. Ooh, that Cooper Sucker seems fast.
Really amazing. I wouldn't expect that.
Indeed, he ran out of track. He ran out of track to try something, and Ray Vidal stays.
Yes, but now we're coming to the twisty section, and that's the point where the grounds effect arrows will have an advantage.
Yes, the arrows is the other ground effects car we have here today. Besides the
And note
Lotus.
something interesting, and that's Philippe's car, as a ground effects car, doesn't suffer so much when going behind another car from the lack of clean air. The other cars, the non-ground effect cars, like the McLaren, as we have seen before with Jean-Marie Placet, they suffer a lot, same as the Williams, when their front wing doesn't get clean air. But the Arrows, it doesn't suffer that more.
Well, I'm sure that helps to fight among this very tight pack we have here. Philippe Martinelli seems to have lost some ground now to Ray Vidal. And I guess, judging by the speed that Cooper Sucker has down the straight, Ray is safe for another lap in his 5th place. But I'm sure Philippe will try again soon.
In the case of Philippe in this race, we have seen how he has been picking up pace steadily. And that's something we tend to forget here. But it's the fact that these cars are not easy to drive or set up, and that people must put some hours of practice into them. So if any of our virtual drivers have been having a busy week or weeks before the race, and he hasn't been able to practice that much, this is something that really will reflect in his pace in the race.
Meanwhile, Pascal Nicolai stopped on the side of the racetrack. Now I wonder if he will retire or not, but he's stuck there. That's very strange. He's now last in the Wolf. And I know
he has lost a rear wheel.
Yeah, so basically he's out of the race. We mentioned before, but I would like to point out that Francois Remen seems to be getting more comfortable with his Renault, because he's in front of quite a lot of people at this point, and he's now 14th.
Yes, indeed, and one must say that this is not a very easy car to handle, because being turbocharged, I've driven it and it's really peculiar, because the engine starts revving up, and at a certain point it goes from nothing to everything. The turbo just kicks in, and you get a tremendous amount of power there in the rear wheels. And if this car is not any quicker, I must say that it's most probably not down to a lack of power or even a lack of grip, but to the fact that he loses so much time due to the turbo lag at the corner exit, because up until the point where the turbo starts kicking in, the other cars are simply pulling away.
Indeed, and let's go back to Philippe Martinelli and Ray Vidal, because Philippe caught Ray once again, and we just made a mistake there. He seemed to be preparing once again to make a move, but now he has to do it all over again, catch Ray once again. He's been seesawing, from being right up Ray's tail to losing just a bit of ground to catch up again, and then losing a bit of ground once again.
And this is something that becomes very tiring psychologically, because you have to climb that hill once and again.
Yes, and let's not forget that tire wear was a factor in the last race. I do wonder how it will be today. Of course, the Kyalami circuit doesn't have as much long, fast corners as the Jacarepaguá circuit had, but still, I'm sure the rear tires must suffer when these people get out of these slow corners with the rear wheel spin. Philippe Martinelli is getting close once again. He's managed to close that gap yet again, and he's now well, close enough to maybe try something.
Yes, he seems to have the slipstream.
Yes, Ray's doing defensive driving, already covered the inside of the track. And Philippe, there's nothing Philippe can do, so he will have to wait yet another lap unless something happens.
Well, Philippe is a very prudent driver, and I mean, he's not going to put any banzai move. If he feels that he is faster than right, he will just calmly wait until he has the proper occasion.
Yes, he's all over the back of him. Oh, no, this was unexpected, but it might work. Indeed, Philippe just passed Ray Ridal near the slow corner there.
That's very typical from Philippe. He will surprise you. Everyone would have been expecting him to try to make the pass on the other section, but no, he does it here.
That was very good indeed, very well placed move. Nobody was expecting that, not us, and for sure not Ray. In the slowest corner of the track, he just pulled alongside Ray, and that was it. Ray tried to close the door, they banged wheels a bit, but there was nothing he could do, and now Felipe Martinelli is promoted to 5th. So both arrows in the top 5.
And having made the move just because that before that fast section, and being able to pull away from it a bit, he also guaranteed himself that Ray was not having another chance at getting his position back.
Indeed, that was a clean, decisive move from Felipe. And I guess now Ray is trying everything to keep up with Felipe to not lose him. But we will see. Felipe did appeared quicker. And we have to see if he will indeed be able to pull away. Of course, Jean-Marie Placé is quite in front of him, 13 seconds in front to be exact. But if he can get just a bit of breathing room, he will secure the 5th place, at least for now. Meanwhile, our leader, Gerard Rion, he has been losing time very, very slowly. He now has a little over 3.5 seconds of an advantage over Petr. He lapped everybody up to 12. So maybe that's what has been costing him a bit more time. Maybe he has been more cautious in the overtakings.
Yes, they're certainly in traffic now.
Well, Felipe Martinelli doesn't seem to be able to pull away from Ray Ridal here. Now that Ray can use Felipe's slipstream, he just gets that little bit extra speed that allows him to follow Felipe and not lose time.
Well, looking at the RPM counter from him, he certainly is doing everything that he can. And he is extracting everything from the Cosworth to keep up with Felipe.
Indeed, he's pulling all the stops that he can. But I guess Felipe can at least stay in front. Oh, and Ray is attacking him. Oh, that was very good. Ray at the end of the long front straight, using the speed that we have seen from the Cooper Sucker, he was able to brake just late enough to repass Felipe Martinelli. Now, I wasn't expecting
it's truly
that.
amazing how that Cooper Sucker runs in straight line.
Well, indeed, he must have some setup with very low wing or something, because he sure is pulling a lot of speed down that front straight. So Felipe will have to do it all over again if he wants that 5th place back.
And this time it won't be that easy to catch Ray Ridal in the same place where he surprised him the first time.
Well, indeed, I guess you will be expecting that this time. Well, it's been an amazing duel. And now Felipe is trying again. He's pulling alongside now. And he will try to break later. Oh, but he didn't quite break late enough. And Ray gets to keep his place. Not only that Cooper Suka seems fast down the straight, but Ray seems to have that, that braking for the first turn really, really to perfection. Because it's really hard to pass him there.
Well, I must say that kink also isn't exactly overtaking friendly. It's a very delicate turn where you arrive quite fast, and it's not the kind of tight corner where after a straight where you would expect you simply almost lock the brakes and then go slowly through. No, it's a corner that you don't just arrive there very fast and brake a lot, but you need to conserve speed, because out of it you need to be still going really fast if you don't want to lose your advantage before the next one.
Well, indeed, and I guess this must be frustrating at this point for Felipe Martinelli. He must feel that he's faster than Ray Vidal, but he didn't take advantage while he was in front, and now he's behind him once again. And I guess it will be hard for him to repass Ray.
In the meantime, Peter Lavak is already well under 3 seconds of distance with Gerard Rion. Catch him up slowly, and you gotta wonder to which extent Gerard is actually allowing this, or if he's really going absolutely flat out.
Well, I do wonder indeed. Petr Lavak has been lapping consistently in the 112-second range, while Gerard Rion, he's being a bit less consistent. He does a 112, then a 114, and a 112 again. So I do wonder if Petr is really putting the pressure on Gerard at this point. Now at this point, we have Gerard Rion in first place still, Petr Lavak is second, Mick Chapman is third. We almost forgot about him, but he's now quite isolated and secured in third place. Jean-Marie Placé lost round to Mick in his fourth now. Ray Vidal is fifth. Philippe Martinelli was demoted to sixth. Jacob Fredriksson is 7 with the ATS. David Junt is still 8th. Yves Placé is 9th. And Didier Conjot in the private Lotus. He is actually the teammate of Gerard. He's 10th. Then we have David Jacques in 11 with the sole Tyrrell remaining. Jan Kowalski with the other ATS is 12th. Jason Fitch with the privateer Lotus, this time it's that one, is 13th. Mark Florkent. Oh, Mark was actually overtaken just now by Francois Romain in the Renault. So Francois Romain is 14th now with the Renault. Mark is 15th with the Ferrari. Glenn Corliss is 16th in the Theodore. Jonathan Usserkant in the McLaren is 17th. Emil Gershak in the Merzario is 18th. Pascal Lepive with the other McLaren is 19th. And our last remaining runner is Michal Janak in the Esket, which is 20th.
User left your channel.
Gerard Rion is now preparing to lap Mark Florkent and Francois Romain. And quite a lot of lapping he's been doing. Ooh, that was tight. And Gerard Rion, well, he has to hurry up because he has Petr in his tail. And now, oh gosh, it's very close to him there. He lost everything he had on Petr Lavak. So now Petr Lavak is right on his tail. Ooh, and he made a small mistake there. Overtaking back markers is really costing him. And now we have a fight for the lead, basically. Gerard is now overtook Francois, and Petr will do the same. And then we will have a straight fight for the lead. Alberto, what do you think of this now? I mean, Petr is almost in the back of Gerard. Now Gerard is really under pressure.
Ah, sorry, I was watching right now that Marc Florkin seems to have collided while following Francois Remen.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
But Jason is waiting for us in the other channel. You need to bring him yourself because you're the administrator here.
Meanwhile, Petr, well, he responded to Gerard's pace and he's under 1 second from the leader. So I guess we cannot run away from this fight anymore, Alberto. We have a race for the lead today in our hands.
Yes, and we are watching now, well, the situation we really wanted to see develop, and that's what would happen if Peter had real clean air and was able to put the Williams pace to play. And, well, we are seeing that he is catching up with Gerard. And the other question now is, what is Gerard going to do about it? Has he some time left still, or is he playing a bit with Peter Lavak? Sometimes when you're a very calculative driver, one of the things that you can do is let the driver behind catch you very slowly so that he sees himself willing to push even more and more and more and becoming more easily a victim of an error.
Well, that Alan Prost comes into memory when you talk about drivers like that.
Indeed.
He was famous for doing that kind of game with his adversaries and pulling those kinds of tactics. He was a master at them. And Gerard surely, he seems to be a bit of Alan Prostish lately, don't you think? I mean, he's been quick enough, but he's not been spectacular or anything, but he's been doing just enough to be in front.
Well, that's also something that the very own Niki Lauda said. I mean, what you must do to win a race is the minimal that you need to do and nothing else, because anything else above that is an unnecessary risk. And Niki Lauda was again another of that school of very calculated drivers.
Yes, indeed. Alan Prost himself said he learned quite a lot when he was his teammate at McLaren. And it sure did him well, because after that he won 4 championships, 27 races, and a place in the best of all time, and surely the best French driver of all time.
The only reason he didn't win more was certainly because he became teammate of a certain Ayrton Senna.
Well, indeed, but if he didn't win more on the track, at least he won more in terms of a name for himself, and certainly he's part of the biggest duel maybe of all time in Formula 1. Meanwhile, these two are still trading fractions of a second between them. Either Gerard gains a bit, either Petr gains a bit, but Gerard seems to have the pace to keep Petr at bay, at least so far. Of course, we will have to see at the end who managed better the tires. We saw that Gerard had some problems with them at the end of the Brazilian Grand Prix, although he seemed to have timed that to perfection because he was able to win. And Petr just took his efforts a bit too far there, trying to catch Gerard, and his tail stepped out a bit. In fact,
yeah, this is one of the traits with those ground effect cars. They have an increased grip, but the tires are the same as in all the other cars. So if you are going quicker through the corners, then at the same time you are stressing more the tires. That's obvious.
Well, it seems to be the case. Gerard, I guess he must set up his car to be a bit on the understeery side, because his rear always seems to be in place, and it's the front that gives him trouble around these fast corners.
Gerard is also one of those drivers that very much like me, doesn't like too much the sliding. He is a guy who likes cars that are absolutely there, put in his place, and that respond always well to what you want them to do. And, well, this is obviously a style of driving that fits very well with these ground effect cars.
Yes, the Lotus leading this track is, of course, a familiar sight. The very same car with Mario Andretti at the wheel dominated the South African Grand Prix back then. And now Gerard is coming to lap Yves Placé.
Now, this is really a very little familiar situation for Yves Placé being lapped. This is one of the drivers that we thought at the beginning of the season that would be always at the top, but somehow this Ensing, well, isn't up to the job.
Yes, it surely makes his life harder. He's running in 10th now, and he was the last driver on the lead lap, not anymore. And we have now the curious situation that Gerard Rion is actually catching Didier Conjot, which is his teammate, and he's preparing himself to put his own teammate a lap down. And meanwhile, he seemed to have gained a bit of time over Petr Lavak. The distance is now again 3 seconds.
Well, I have the impression that Petr had absolutely cooked his tires while trying to follow Gerard, because at some point, one of the reasons he lost almost a full second there was on a very big slide at the exit of one of the corners.
Indeed, it seems like that. He will have to count on Gerard cooking his own tires if he wants to have another shot at victory in here. It seems that he doesn't have the pace anymore to follow Gerard on his own.
No, it would seem that Gerard was a bit playing mind games with him, because as soon as he wished it, he immediately went away. Now they are again under 2 seconds, but that's probably because of Gerard having to go past Yves Placé.
Yes, I guess Gerard is once again showing the carrot to the driver, pursuing him and just keeping it just a bit out of reach, making them run and still not catching that carrot. We still have 19 runners here today, although some of them are quite a lap, I would say a long time back, although this long time is already measured in laps. That's why I was having quite a bit of trouble now to say it. Michal Janak is our last running driver here with the Esket. He's still running, although 4 laps down.
User joined your channel.
So that's quite a bit of time back, but if he's still running, it's good for us, it's good for the audience, and it's good. Well, Alberto, I guess this fight for the lead has been a bit strange,
User
I
left
suppose.
your channel.
At one point we have Gerard 3 seconds again in the lead, then suddenly he loses everything again. He still hasn't managed to pass his own teammate to put him a lap down. So I guess Gerard made a small mistake and Petr was all over him. But now Gerard seems to, be trying again to just run away from Petr once again.
Well, those both are teammates. I wouldn't expect Didier Conjot to make it hard for Gerard Rion to go by. There you go. And
yeah,
the question is, was
himself.
Gerard, for example, wanting, as a calculating driver, to put Didier in the middle of them just before a section where Peter would suffer more? If that had been the case, I don't know why the overtaking happened at the front straight. That's a place where Peter, as he has done, was able to follow him. So now that's a bit of a question, and well, we don't really know. We are confused about what game Gerard Rion is playing.
Well, yes, I can say I'm not sure anymore if he's just, toying with Petr, or if actually he's trying everything he can, and sometimes he manages to pull a gap, but then he loses because he makes a small mistake, or either because he cooked his tires. One thing is for sure, his teammate Didier Conjot, practically threw himself out of the track to let these two go by. So he's not a factor in the fight for the lead. And indeed, Pet's car, the back of it is all over the place, but he keeps on very close to Gerard, and actually down the straight he seems to be faster. He's catching him once again.
We were speculating last race that Gerard, well, when he made those storming sprints, that he got away from the rest of the cars, he probably overcooked the tires, because as we have explained, the Lotus is capable of such huge corner speeds that the tires will obviously suffer a lot. So after doing such sprints, he had to cool down the tires, going much lower during some time. So maybe this is also a part of the explanation of what is happening here.
Well, one thing is for sure, it's making for exciting racing. Once again, we have a race that it's far from being decided for the lead, nonetheless. And I guess it's anybody's race at this point, because Gerard doesn't seem to be able to run away from Petr, and we actually wonder if he wants to run away from Petr or if he's able to because of the tires. Because every time he gains a bit, then he loses, and now they're approaching yet another back marker, this time Pascal Lepiv in the other McLaren.
Yeah, but look at this situation. Gerard seems to have taken seriously this last lap, and all through the twisty section on the back of the track, he has been going quite fast. As a result, he has opened the gap with his follower, who's his pursuer, but right now, he's a bit stuck against Pascal and not sure what he's really going to do. Seems to be right now going fast, but this won't last long. And at this corner, for example, Peter is just also again close to him.
Yes, with all this action, we must point out that there are now 14 laps to go only. So we are reaching the closing stages of this race when tire wear starts to be a big issue. The cars are very light now, the lap times have been falling. So if Petr wants to make a move, or indeed if he has the tires to make the move, all will be revealed soon.
Well, in any case, it's certainly exciting that at this point of the race we have the two first classified ones only 1 second apart.
Indeed, they both seem to be able to get down to the 1:11 seconds lap range. Now at this point, Petr Lavak now gained 1/10 of the second in this last lap, so we can see how close things are at this point. They both seem to be able to run almost identical lap times, although Gerard's ability to get out of the corners just a bit faster has been good for him, because he's been able to get away from his pursuers every time they even try to make a move or wonder if they will make a move. But we do wonder if it will last until the end of the race.
That's the question.
Of course, behind these two, we still have Nick Chapman running away in third. He's now, if nothing happens to him, he seems to have that third place secure for now, which is a very good performance from him. I mean, he switched to the arrows, and his pace and his result, if he finishes like this, will improve dramatically.
Well, he certainly is not regretting his move at the moment. Question is, what will he think when the next evolution of both cars appears? Because from what I've heard, the Wolf might become actually faster in the next evolution.
Yes, this year's model of Wolf that is still coming is indeed a fast car. So if anything else, you will have more people to fight there at the front.
It was the performance of the Wolf in this 1978 year that actually lured no other than James Hunt to drive for them when he was absolutely fed up with the situation at McLaren. After one of his best years driving, he stopped. He quit McLaren and he went to Wolf. And by the mid-season in 1979, he was so absolutely demotivated that he quit altogether.
Yes, James Hunt, he blamed back then the rising technicality of Formula One and the fact that the driver wasn't able to make the difference as much as he was a few years earlier for his lack of motivation to keep going, because he felt that he was faster than what his car allowed him to be in relation to the competition. Well,
yeah,
right or
one
wrong.
Of the interesting things about that with James Hunt is that some years later he attempted a comeback, and the cars had changed so much, and probably he himself so much, that in one private test he did, he was 2 seconds of the pace from the driver that was with the team at that moment. So he definitely understood that there was no more a chance for him at Formula One, and didn't come back anymore to motorsports.
Yes, he retired from motorsports altogether and assumed the role of commentator full time. Well, a role that he is fondly remembered from his colorful comments, I should say.
Indeed.
Of course, I'm of the opinion that it's always good for a driver to just retire if he indeed feels he cannot be fast or make a difference anymore, rather than being constantly returning just to run in the midfield. Like, for example, I would say Alan Jones or other drivers that retired. They were champions, but their comebacks weren't nearly as successful.
Yeah, it's always a pity when you see a former champion struggling in the midfield, like happened, well, as you said, with Alan Jones, and also with another good, interesting British champion, and that was Damon Hill.
Yes, although Damon, well, he had the misfortune that Williams didn't believe in him enough to just keep him in the seat. He ended up driving for the ill-fated Arrows Yamaha team. And although he almost won the race, I guess it was basically the end of the great results in Formula One for him there. Now, following Petr Lavak, he doesn't seem to be able to bridge that 1 second that he has for Gerard Rion. This difference has remained constant through the last 4 or 5 laps, despite the fact that they are actually overtaking back markers.
Yes, one must reckon though that in this last overtaking, this last set of overtaking, Gerard has been much more luckier than Peter, and he has been able to go through earlier, and well, yes, that gave him that couple hundred of meters now.
Yes, I guess it doesn't help Peter that his back doesn't seem to want to follow the front of the car in every corner.
Those must be the tires giving up the ghost, because what Peter has had, due to his early spin, he has had to be really on the charge during the whole race. That must have been very tolling on his tires.
Meanwhile, the rest of the top 5, in third we have Mick Chapman, fourth we have Jean-Marie Placet, that finally he was able to just stay in one position without anybody harassing him. After him is Philippe Martinelli, who was able to leave the 6th place man, Ray Ridal, quite a bit in the dust, as we would say. He now has over 10 seconds of a lead. Next placed man is Jacob Frederiksen in 7th, and he was just lapped by the leader now, so only the 6 first cars running in the lead lap.
And we see now that Jonathan Athercliffe seems to to be trying to make his strategy pay, and he is certainly catching up with Francois Remen. They are right now at the back of the grid, 15 and 16th, but it seems that Jonathan is getting to Francois.
Well, I'm sure it will be a victory for him to finish the race and actually overtake some people. He wasn't very confident, but he's surely closer to that today than he was one race ago in Brazil.
Okay, we are now back to the head of the race, because right now Peter Hlavac has again put Gerard Rion under a second difference, only 0.9. And let's see if this time can make it stick.
Yes, we are also under 10 laps to go now. So we have around 7 laps to go. So if Peter wants to do something, I guess the time is arriving. Although that car seems to be running wider and wider every time he goes around that last corner.
Yeah, he probably is trying to rely on putting some pressure on Gerard Rion. Because when the difference is so small, any error when entering a corner or when taking one of the back markers can make you lose position.
Yes, we have a proper fight here on our hands, but oof, Peter he's drifting out of every corner now. I guess he doesn't have rear tires anymore, or at least they are not behaving as tires anymore at this point. But he's still trying to go in pursuit of Gerard.
And Jonathan is now really close to Francois Remen. And that Turbo Renault really seems to pull out of the corners. The only problem he has is that he does it with a lag. So now there is Jonathan again, pressing hard.
Yes, these two are fighting for 15th place here. It is a curious fight between what we can say the state-of-the-art turbo Renault car and the old, successful in the past McLaren M23. I guess now in the front straight we will see what the Renault can do, which is basically pull away from the McLaren with impressive ease.
And look what happens at the straight. That's where the Renault power comes so handy, because the McLaren, even if somehow behind the slipstream, is unable to catch up.
Oh, a tense moment there as Yves Passet tries to basically put 2 cars a lap down in relation to him in one corner, and he takes it a bit too far. Meanwhile, I guess Peter doesn't have any tires anymore, unlike Gerard, because he's now over 2 seconds adrift from Gerard Rion. So I do wonder if he has anything left to contest for the win.
Well, probably not. His tires have taken a hard beating during this race, and he must now be content to simply put a distant pressure on the leader.
Of course, it was a shame that we lost Richard Coxon and Greg Wassin very early in the race, because we do wonder what those two could have done. So it seems that now our podium positions are very much secure for now, unless Gerard makes a mistake. We have now 4 laps to go, and the distance is increasing. Now it's almost 4 seconds between first and second.
And indeed, the only real battle on the track now is between Jonathan and Francois Remen, because the rest have really big gaps. And actually, Peter, it seems that his tires are absolutely totaled by now, and he's starting to quickly lose time against Gerard.
Yes, Gerard is able to lap in lows 111s, while Petr is having quite a bit of difficulty to even reach 111s now. His car is entering sideways in every corner, so I don't think he has the tires to keep up with Gerard anymore.
No, and if you look at that Lotus, it seems to be going as steady through the corners as ever. So I would say that probably our theory was right in that what happens is that as soon as Gerard goes too fast, the tires are cooked. But when he cools them down again, he can keep a very nice pace that is not too stressing on the tires and conserves them relatively well.
Indeed, and this also answers our other question. Would the dominant guy from the first race be able to beat the dominant guy from the second race? And I guess not today, which puts Gerard in a very good place, because he seems to have gelled now well with the Lotus, and he seems to have just that little bit extra that allows him to run away with the race.
And meanwhile, Jonathan has been able to overtake François Remen. They are coming now to the front straight. And the Renault is catching up. But I don't think it will be enough. Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
I wouldn't say so.
Now the turbo kick in. Amazing overtaking from the Renault in the straight.
Oh, almost looked like he was passing a car from another class there. So poor Jonathan has to do it all over again.
So Gerard Rian is going to enter on the 77th lap. He is right now at the main straight.
Yes, our leader, calm,
crosses
cool,
the line,
and collected.
And it's one lap to go for him.
One lap to go for Gerard. If he wins, it will be the second win of the season for him, which will put him very comfortable in terms of points. Of course, let's not forget, he being a Team Lotus driver, he will still benefit from its evolution, the Lotus 79, during the season. And if he's already so dominant with the Lotus 78, we do have to wonder what he will able to achieve when he has his new car.
And Jonathan, who had overtaken François Remen again, is now about to fall victim of the Renault Turbo. No, he isn't.
It's a very funny and interesting fight, but I guess Jonathan might have the distance now to be able to stay in front.
Okay, so our leader is coming now to the main straight. He is about to finish the race. There goes Gerard to collect his second victory of the year.
Indeed, Gerard is going through this front straight and he wins the race. He wins the third race of the season. He loses no time commemorating. And Petr Lavak will come across for an excellent second place. He wasn't able to this time put his dominant performance he did in the first race against Gerard, he practically dominated the race. And in third place, now crosses the line, an incredible Mick Chapman with the arrows. What a difference it made for him.
Indeed, a well-deserved place.
And we will wait for Jean-Marie Placet, Philippe Martinelli, and Ray Ridal to complete the top 6 and the point scorers of this race today. Ray Ridal once again scoring points with the Cooper Sucker. He's been a regular at this, and this time he leaves Jacob Fredriksson with the ATS one place down in 7th in their particular duel between the two. Jacob Fredriksson is 7th, David Junt crossed the line already in 8th, Didier Conjoud in the other Lotus in 9th, and Yves Placet rounds up the top 10 of this race. Jonathan Nasserklint indeed managed to keep in front of François Remen. So the other places are in the 11th, David Jacques with the Tyrrell, 12th, Jan Kowalski with the ATS, 13th, Jason Fitch with the Lotus, 14, Emil Gershak with the Merzario. 15, Jonathan Asselklint in the McLaren M23. 16, Francois Romain in the Renault. 17, Pascal Lepeve in the McLaren. 18, Michal Janak with the Esket. And 19, and last running, Glenn Corliss in the Theodore. Thank you very much for everyone for this race. The historic sim racing organization doing an excellent job here today. Thank you very much for coming, Alberto, once again.
Thank
to
you,
enlighten
guys.
us with your technical expertise. And we must all thank our director, Ben Paulet, for the excellent transmission once again. And myself, Richard Wilks. Bye-bye for now.